Welcome back. It's the Game Changer. It's been a while since you heard my voice, since I dropped the video with the tutorial commentary. I'm super excited to explain this haircut. It's a lot of gems that I have to drop in this video. But before, I actually have quite a few videos to drop. But before I do, I want to ask your help with some things. So these are some clips of my AAU basketball team. That's actually my daughter right there. I have a traveling AAU team. I put the team together for my daughter and her friends, to give the girls a good experience. I train them, I coach them. And what I would like for you all to help me with, if you can donate, if there's a thank you button. If I've ever helped you with any type of haircut and some advice, or if you've ever just enjoyed my content and you want to help the girls out, what I'm looking to do is take them to a few different states this summer for some big tournaments, give them some good experience and exposure. And I want to make it very cost effective for the parents. I cover quite a bit of it, but if you all wouldn't mind helping, I would really appreciate it. These girls are very talented. They're good kids, and I want to give them some good memories and good experiences. So if you can click the thank you button, donate $1, whatever you have, really, I would appreciate it. They would appreciate it, and it would make it. And I know their parents would too. So if you can, that's me right there coaching the girls. I love it, man. I love working with these kids. That's actually my passion. If you ever follow me on Instagram, this is what I love to do. So these are all the girls. After the tournament we had in Houston, we actually went 3-on-1. So the girls are actually very talented. You can go check us out at Team GameChanger 2027 or my Instagram at DRight04. So yeah. If you can help, I would appreciate it. But let's get back to the content, what you came here for. So my guy's been growing his locks for a long time. Very beautiful hair texture, long hair. Now, I saw in the ASMR version of this video, a lot of people probably didn't like the style cut. And what you have to understand is, right, like, I don't dictate that. I do what the client asks, and we move from there. So what made this haircut difficult is that he has very thick, absorbent hair. A very spongy texture. So for one, we have to counter that, okay, he hasn't had a cut in over 10, 15 years, right? That's one. First, let me go one step at a time. So first thing I do is, since I know that he wants a fro on top, I want to cut those locks off where it last locked at. Meaning, at the base where he's grown out his hair, there's going to be freeform hair, right? And I want to keep all the freeform hair so I can style the hair to his liking. So what I do is I stretch the hair and I twist it, counter the rotation that it was twist when they locked it, and then I cut off the end of where the hair kind of clumps or locks together. Rewind that so it can make sense, but it makes sense if you listen to it multiple times. And after we do that, after we cut them off, then we wash it and we comb it. So now his hair texture underneath that fro, he hasn't had a haircut in a long time. Had a few dry scalp locations, but use a good shampoo or conditioner. You can kind of counter that. But the biggest thing, like I said, is transitioning. So for one, a fro fade, I call it a fro when it's really long hair on the top that doesn't lay down, is a difficult cut regardless. Let alone when a client hasn't had a haircut in years, because now they have no uniform growth pattern. So I have to transition or fade this hair from skin to long hair and make it look like he hasn't been growing his locks for about 15 years. So usually what you do is, the reason why I wash the hair, it helps me manipulate the scalp, manipulate the hair growth pattern. And so a wash is always good. A wash condition, if you can wash it multiple times, that would be good. And as far as the fading techniques that I use to kind of counter those multiple growth patterns, I'll get to that when it's time. But yeah, I just comb it out, kind of see what kind of what we have going on under the scalp. Is there a lot of loose dandruff, dead skin, and that's kind of that. So now before I wash it, what I want to do, even though I cut those locks off, sometimes I might miss a few. So what I do is I'll put a larger guard on, and it'll help me get all of that tangled hair, any locks that I might have left. So that way when I wash his hair, it'll be a much smoother transition. So I'll let you all watch me do that, and I'll be back after the wash. And when I wash him, what I'm really trying to do is clean the roots, and I want to manipulate the hair. You see, that's my son in the background. He has a lot of beautiful hair as well. But you all watch, and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, so after a wash, what I do is I kind of want, so he's getting a 4 on top. So I take the 4 guard and I gently go through, because again, I wash, I soften the scalp up, but I don't want to, make this a painful experience for him. It's been a while since he's had clippers to scalp. So what I want to do, I cut the whole thing 4 against the grain. A 4 against the grain. So if the natural growth pattern of the top of his head, the crown, and the temple is forward, then I go against. And if the natural growth pattern of the nape of his neck and the occipital bone area is down, then I cut up. That's the most simplest way I can translate that for you. And then, I just take my time and I literally listen. You gotta understand, like, the reason why these videos are so long, I really try to show you me going over the steps multiple times, because it is a repetitive process, right? So he's getting a drop fade, and I want that drop to start below the occipital bone. Now, when I do a drop fade with a fro on top, with longer hair on top, it starts even lower, because that transition area or zone has to be much larger, because you're taking really thick hair and you're going to a really light fade. So if you try to do that in the same zone or the same like ratio that you would, or the same length of transition area as you would like wavelength on top, it will not work. It'll come out looking like a chili bowl. So how you counter that is giving yourself more workspace. So below the occipital bone, I curve up right above the ear. Then I'm at the lower part of the temple, right? That's my workspace. Now I'm still gonna do my 2-line method, right? I still do my primary line, my secondary line, my primary section, and my secondary section. I know it's been a while since you heard me use those terms, so I'll give a brief overview. This line you see me putting in right here, that's the primary line. The secondary line, this is still primary line. I'm just kind of neatening it up, making sure it's even all the way around. Now the secondary line is going to be a line that I use maybe with my fast feeds, if you have those, or your Babyliss FX. I'm sorry, your Babyliss trimmer, not the edger, which is the trimmer. I'm sorry. Basically the clipper I'm using right now, right? And then I'm going to put no guard on that, and I'm going up about 1 inch, maybe a ½ inch, or maybe a little bit more, depending on, how you like to do your fades. And I'm going to put this exact same line, but with hair. I'll show you when I get there to make sense. But what I'm doing right now, I'm teaching 2 things at one time. So what I'm doing right now is I have a 2 guard on, and I'm actually debulking the section where I'm going to put my secondary line. Why, Devontae? Because it's easier to see. Sometimes, especially with younger barbers, if we don't have a clean workspace, it's harder for us to get the job done. We get frustrated and we get confused. Just like when you try to work in a messy room or a messy office, declutter your space to make it easier for you. Now I'm putting that secondary line in, which is what I was explaining to you. You see how I have no guard on my Babyliss clipper, and it's a lighter line. Why do you do that, right? It takes more time, because it makes it easier to transition. I have a clean workspace. Everything's about having a clean workspace. So what I'm going to do, now the primary line, you see it goes from bald to light. The secondary line goes from light to long hair. The next step is to blend the primary section, which is right there. The section that's light is the primary section. The section that's dark is the secondary section. So a brief overview, because I got time, and I hope you all are really taking into account this knowledge that I'm giving you. Primary line is the line that separates the scalp from the light hair. The secondary line is the part that separates the light hair from the dark hair. The primary section is the light hair. The secondary section is the dark hair. When you break it down into those 4 components, it's so easy to do any haircut. Now what I'm doing is blending the primary line into the primary section. And there's no exact science of what lever placement. It's just really wrist control. If you have a good quality clipper, you can be very light, and you see how easy that line is coming out. Now, even though he has multiple growth patterns, what I do to counter that is see how I'm taking my offhand. I'm using that thumb to stretch the scalp, right? Because the tighter that skin, the easier it is for the razor to glide, the clipper to glide. You want to tighten up your workspace. And then I'm just slowly stroking the clipper, right? Small strokes, long strokes. I take my time. And also, don't be compelled or don't feel that you have to use the whole blade. If you use just a piece or a corner of the blade, sometimes it's easier to hit those smaller sections that you might have missed when you were blending out another spot. So I said a lot in that section, but it's very, very valuable that I really believe can take your game to the next level. Just rewind it if you have to, okay? Now, debulking. It's time to blend the secondary line in to the secondary section. What I do before I start to blend, I debulk down. So what I do is I put a larger guard on and I work my way down. So he has a 4 on top, right? So what you just saw, that blue guard was a 3 guard. Then I'll kind of debulk or take some of the thickness out like you would do with thinning shears with the 3 guard. Then I go to a 2 guard, do the exact same thing. I'm not trying to fade it or blend it right now, right? I'm just debulking. And then I'll take the 1.5, which would be a white guard or a black guard. I don't know which one I use on the video. And then I'll thin it out again. Then after that, I'll comb my 1 guard and start to actually fade or transition, blend that fade in. I'm telling you, it sounds like a lot, but listen, especially with this type of haircut, man, the worst thing you can do is find yourself in a situation where you took too much hair off and then, you know, it stands out. See, this is the 1.5 guard. So I'd rather you take these steps, apply them, and you come out with a great fade, right? A lot of it is technique, method, patience, and then it comes time. So the more you practice this, the better it gets, right? So when I drop these videos, I literally want the student at school that's cutting his strands, the mom who's cutting her kids, or the professional barber who's just looking for tips and tidbits. I want everybody to be able to understand it the same way. So if you ever have any questions, leave them in the comments and I got you. But I'm just debulking right now. I want to take my time and I don't really worry about the top of the fade. I'm worried about, I have tunnel vision when I'm fading. I focus on one thing at a time. Now I'm assessing all situations, but my focus is on the section that I'm working on. I'm not just fading, I'm working, all right? So you all watch me debulk, and now appreciate the process, and I'll be back. Dang, I ain't even have no time to leave. I either be talking too much or over teaching. I think I be teaching a lot, but it's cool, it's worth it. All right, so now this is the 1 guard I was telling you about, or the 1/8 guard, but we call it a 1 guard in the industry. Now I'm just kind of blending the sections together. I take my time. See now it's time to combine the 2 sections, right? The primary and secondary section. Do you see how much easier it's going to be now that that section, the secondary section, is lighter? What do I always say? We're going to say it together in the comments. When I say it on the count of 3, you say it. 1, 2, 3. The lighter the area, the easier to fade. It's so much easier blending this together than it is to blend a dark, thick, dense piece of hair. So there's just a trick and technique that I've been using for years, and it actually makes the transition on the fade look a lot better. You've ever seen those drop fades, or have you ever done a fade where it's so bulky around the seam where the transition takes place? That's because they didn't debulk, or that's because they didn't take the time to thin the area out. When you thin the area, it gives a nice, smoother, flowy transition more than an abrupt, hard transition. So you all watch. After this, the next step is no guard, and I actually do the combining of the transition area. The combining of the transition area. I be talking too fast sometimes, so I gotta slow myself down. All right, so I'm gonna let y'all watch. I kind of broke it down to you. Now I want you to see me do it, and I'll be back when it's time for the next step. All right, all right. Oh yeah, before I forget, when it comes to multiple growth patterns, like I said, the hair's been longer, it's been growing all kind of ways underneath that. Don't fight it, right? Take your time. Use the comb, not the brush, to show you which way the hair actually is growing or laying at that moment. Don't try to manipulate it. I want you to use the corner or the tip of the blade, not the whole blade, to kind of cut those multi-growth patterns against the grain. You take your time. You see right here I'm using tiger claw method. It's a form of debulking. But take your time. You see how I'm when you lightly fade multi-growth pattern areas, it's so much easier to make that transition look seamless. Okay, I just want to say that. See you in a little bit. Alright, so just to pass the time with some talking while you watching, because obviously y'all had the ASMR videos, the last like 7 videos, so obviously you want to hear my voice. So let's get it out the way. This is the most probably timely part of the haircut, next to the edge up. It requires patience. I'm understanding that things won't always go right. It's just about their transition zone. My primary objective, my only objective right now, really with primary, I'm gonna say primary, is to make sure that these two sections flow together seamlessly. When you remember that in your conscious and subconscious, that'll make your job much easier. Any other problem you can handle later. If it's a little too bulky in the thicker sections, if you see something, like focus on the job at hand, because when you get sidetracked and when your confidence lowers because it's not looking how you think it should look, when you think it should look that way. Like, okay, example, you've ever been fading somebody's hair? You're like, damn, I've been working on this one section for 5 minutes. The client gonna think I'm taking too long, so they're gonna think something wrong, or why is it not going? Hair textures are different, growth patterns are different, hair density is different. Don't put a time restraint on yourself, right? Like, don't take 2 days, but don't rush yourself. Take your time, remember the mission, remember the techniques and the tips. And then just use the corner of the clipper. Use the full blade, the back side of the blade. Experiment and explore so that you can learn and know your equipment. And use that comb. Comb is so vital. It keeps the hair with the proper spacing versus a brush that actually clumps the hair and lays it down. The comb actually helps the hair raise from the scalp, but also keep it in the right direction, and it lifts it from the scalp. All right, so you all watch. I'll be back soon. All right, so for a very, very crucial part of the haircut, let's discuss the edge up. Now, the edge up, especially on the fro fade or hair with longer edges, very important that you debulk or thin out those edges. How? Why? What do you mean? So on over curly hair or black people's hair, the hair, when it's long on top, it curls around the edges. So you can find yourself pushing back, trying to chase the perfect edge up, or the hair won't lay down properly, or when they go home and wash their hair, the edge up won't like it did in the barbershop. So the best way to alleviate that is to try to get that hair to lay as flat as possible in its natural growth pattern. So that way, when they edge it, wash it, lay it down, whatever they got to do, it stays the same. So if you can see right here, what I'm doing is I'm just thinning it out. I'm taking off the excess depth or thickness or density in the edge up. So that way, when I edge it, it lays proper. And then when they go home and wash it, or when he manipulates his hair, the edge up will still be the same. Now, how do I go without pushing back? Well, try to find, a lot of people chase that perfect edge up, when really, once you edge the client up where their hair naturally grows, it'll be much better than you could have thought it would have been anyway. Because even though when you push the edge up back, it looks nice, when it grows back, it looks horrible. So he hasn't had a haircut or edge up in a while, so he had a lot of hair, a lot of excess hair growing on his forehead. I kind of lined it up with the 3/4 away with the eyebrow, and that's kind of how I picked where I want to edge him up, or where his hair grew thickest at. Now, after I edge him up, what I want to do is actually go back and touch up a few spots, find a few dents or very dense or thick areas in the fade, and I do my touch-up work. So that's pretty much how you do a dry fade with the curls on top, transitioning from the locks. Stick around for the ending, the before and after. Hope you all enjoy. Remember, donate to the girls. I'll put a few more basketball clips at the end if you can. You know, $1 goes a long way. We appreciate it. The parents appreciate it. And go follow me at DRight04 on Instagram. Subscribe. And you can go follow our team page at Team GameChanger 2027. This is before. This is the after. Hope you all enjoy. See you soon. GameChanger out. More content coming, 2 more videos this week.
Who wanna